All right, guys, welcome into another video. Today we're going to be reacting to the latest Inside Star Citizen, talking about all things Alpha 323. But before I do that, I need to address the elephant in the room. Yes, my channel has been demonetized. I have to wait 90 days to reapply. So if you guys want to continue to support the channel, I have started a Patreon. It's only $5.99 a month, and you can support the channel and get all the access to my videos before uploading to YouTube. And like I said, if you want to support me, you know, through this troubling time, I would appreciate that. At this point, I kind of just have to put it behind me and just move forward. I suspect that there was a certain creator who, I'm not going to accuse anybody, but I already have a pretty good idea who it is, just based on their track record with these kinds of things. You know, when negative things are said about them, but I don't have any proof. But I will say this: in the event that I do get proof that this content creator actually did this to my channel to get it demonetized, then the get back will be ruthless and very vicious. So, and the reason that I say that is because if there's like some type of dispute or anything like that, you don't like what somebody said, you can always reach out to that person and like clear the air. One thing that I would never do on this platform or any platform or anywhere in life is try to attack someone's pockets. I would never do that. I find those actions very deplorable. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about that. I'm going to move forward for now, but in the event that we find out who it is, with proof, with undeniable proof, we're going to deal with that accordingly. But let's go ahead and get into Inside Star Citizen, talking about Alpha 323. I'm gonna give my reaction to it. Let's get it. Oh, I think I'm kind of bright. Hold on. All right, that's better.
23 is just around the corner, and that means it's time for Patch Dispatch 323, where we run down all the new features and content included in what could be Star Citizen's biggest patch yet. So let's just jump right into things. And we'll start with life in the first person. And in 323, life begins with a newly expanded and...
You guys already know my thoughts on this character customizer. I feel like it's not that great. Like I've literally made a purple character that has purple skin. I'll call him Van Duel Man. I feel like this character creator is for a certain demographic. It caters to this demographic a little bit more. You can spend a lot of time customizing your face, but there's not that many options to like blend a face with. I think like this feature could have probably waited until they had all the faces in. I don't know. I feel like this character customizer, or this face customizer, actually what it is, I feel like it's kind of mid, bro, to be honest.
And revamped character customizer, letting you create more dynamic and representative avatars than ever before.
Representative.
A new beginning
okay.
that will continue to evolve with additional features and options in subsequent patches.
Like, it's just odd.
Features and options in subsequent patches.
Like, it's just odd. Like, I don't know. The shit to me is just weird. I'll keep that opinion to myself, but you guys can probably figure out where I'm going with that.
Now let's discuss all the major improvements that directly affect your character, starting with the new Mobi-Glass. Now, unlike Eobard Thawne, we've finally killed the Flash, as the new Mobi-Glass finally makes its in-universe debut with a revamped layout and new features like the Health and Contract Manager apps to help you stay alive and find work respectively. It also includes the long-awaited and hotly anticipated new Maps app, combining the new star map and interior map experiences.
One thing that I'm glad they changed with the latest update to the EPTU is the way that it was before was it would zoom all the way into your current location. So like if you're flying a light fighter, like I don't need to see a map of my light fighter, essentially. You know what I mean? So I'm glad that they put it like at a solar system view at default. Which I do appreciate that. But here's the issue with the star map, the new one. It still has the same issues that the old star map has. Like sometimes you can't set a route. Sometimes you know, the functionality doesn't work all that well. And this little thing right here that you have to move, like, why do I have this when I have a mouse? Like, I don't want to use this little crosshair thing. I want to use my mouse to move the things around. It wasn't that intuitive, but I felt like the left click and drag from the previous star map works a lot better than this. Like, I either just need to use my mouse to zoom it in, or I need a click and drag function. I don't like this at all.
Into one unified interface with an entire host of new functionalities designed to help you find your way through landing zones, space stations, and the entire verse as a whole. Oh, and that work also touches the new lens and visor updates with a great new mini-map that appears now in the upper left corner.
See, like, this is cool, and I feel like this is gonna work well for like new players. But for people who are Star Citizen veterans who've been playing the game for a long time, we already know our way around most landing zones. We don't typically get lost all that much. Where I think we really need the star map is when we go to like derelict outposts, when we go into cave systems, when we go into places that are unknown, and then be able to maybe like scan those areas to get maps that we can download and that we can share. You know, I would love it if the star map or the mini map showed you like terrain that you're actually moving on these planets and moons. I think that would be much more useful than a star map of a locations that we already know, because really there's only so many landing zones in the game currently that, you know, like as far as like buildings go, that we actually need these. I mean, the distribution centers need them too because they're new. People don't really know their way around them yet. And that's like with anything, but I still feel like, you know, we need more functionality with the star map. And one of the things I personally want to see with the new star map is I want to be able to zoom in on a location on a planet and be able to see that terrain. Because just looking at the planet, I mean, yeah, that's cool. You can zoom all the way in, but it means nothing essentially if I can't get details about certain locations. If I'm looking for like a derelict site, I'm looking for whatever. I think that would be some great functionality to add to the star map.
Your days of not finding your way around are soon behind you. Unless you're a specific person who won't be named. You know who you are. Of course, when you're traveling through the verse, Alpha 323 has a whole new array of improvements to how you'll interact with the world around you, starting with a revamped player interaction system that's more nimble and customizable than ever.
Personally, I haven't used it all that much, other than just the F function to get in my ship and like all that stuff. I find like the new thing to be a little bit clunky. I don't find it to be that smooth. I mean, I can go in and check to see if they made like any changes to it, if they made it like smoother and stuff like that. But essentially, I just don't use it.
Ever before? Default item actions that let you keep your customizations exactly how you want them. A new shopping interface that streamlines.
This, last time I checked, didn't work all that great. I used it to buy some drinks. It worked okay. But when I went to go buy like armor and things like that, it's still not that intuitive to use. I'll check it again, I'll test it again, but I didn't find it to be all that great.
It's the experience, so you can get what you want and go. And new looting screens to improve your alternate and more violent shopping experience.
I find this to be, I mean, it's good like if you're trying to do something quick, like if you're just trying to get ammo off a guy. But most of the time, if you're trying to like drop like their armor and stuff like that, I find the old inventory to be a little bit better. If you're trying to like loot goblin, trying to be like a loot goblin, you want to drop all their stuff and, you know, bring a container and take all their armor so you can sell it. Like, this is not great for that. So you have to click this button right here to open up the old inventory menu to do that. So in some cases, it's more convenient. In other cases, it's less convenient.
And speaking of which, there's lots of new improvements to the way you bring first-person murder, death, kill to your fellow citizens in the verse, including scope magnification updates, ammo repooling and backpack reloading, ADS tuning, and the new dynamic crosshair on specialized helmets so you can...
The ADS stuff is actually a little bit better. I don't use the dynamic crosshair. I have it turned off. I like more of like that realistic feel. Like I want to make sure, how can I put this? I don't like the dynamic crosshair. Like I just don't think that it's all that great. I prefer to not have it at all, you know? So if maybe they can customize it to where I can just get like a kill marker, that'd be fine. But most of the time, like if you know how to shoot and aim, you're gonna be fine just without it.
You can fire straight from...
I also don't like how it like moves around. Like I don't like how it's like you walk and it's like bouncing back and forth. I don't like that.
Hip and game, and not just from the comfort of your YouTube comments. And your first-person life doesn't end there, because Alpha 323 allows you to take the fight to zero G with the newly revamped EVA mechanics, changing the way you traverse the verse outside your spacecraft and vehicle.
I will say the new EVA actually is one of the features that worked really great out of the box. They absolutely nailed it with the new EVA. The mechanics are good. It works really, really great. I do wish that there was a way for you to essentially like transform yourself to go upright, because if I'm like in a firefight and like we're going like head on, like if we're going head on like this, like the only target that they're going to see is your head and shoulders. And I would like to present like my actual body armor in zero G instead of just my head, because you know you can't take too many headshots in this game. So that's just like a little thing for the future there. But other than that, I find the new EVA to be great.
And speaking of your spacecraft or vehicles, the Alpha 323 season also includes new ways to house, load, and launch your ships with the new personal
not even in the
persistent
game.
hangars coming to ArcCorp, Hurston, Microtech, and Orison in a 323X patch this quarter.
Okay, first of all, this is not even in the game yet, so I don't know why they're talking about it. Like, it's not in the game. It's not relevant for what's going to be happening in the future. It's like they're trying to sell us, be like, oh, the next patch is going to be great. Like, next patch, this is the new trademark for Star Citizen, next patch TM. You know what I'm saying? That's the new thing. Because, like, if it's not there, like, I don't, like, for me, like, don't talk about it. Talk to me about what's going to be here in this patch, what we're doing right here, right now. That's what I want to hear about. Not this, because none of this stuff is functional yet.
Which also includes item banks to grab your stuff, vehicle platforms to raise your ships, and freight elevators to load them before takeoff.
I also wonder how they're going to do this on Orison, because at least with the planets that have, like, grounds, it's like, okay, the ship's actually going underground. But with Orison, the hangars are actually, like, floating in the atmosphere. So how are you going to send an elevator down and store the ship? Are they going to make the actual size of these hangars actually physically bigger to house these stored ships? Like, imagine you're trying to pull like an 890 jump out on Orison. Are you going to lead me to believe that in the confines of that square of where that hangar is, there's an entire 890 jump down there? Like, I'm going to find that hard to believe. That is going to break my immersion.
Of course, once you take off, you'll find a new way to fly with master modes and a new way to fight with precision targeting and weapon mount.
So the precision targeting, it doesn't feel good on sticks, right? It feels very numb. There's no real good feedback on it. You shoot slower anyway. You have no situational awareness. And for me, this feature feels like I'm playing Starfield. Well, the entire flight model feels like I'm playing Starfield, right? That's what the combat now feels like. It doesn't feel like we are in the future with advanced spacecraft. It feels like we're flying like updated modern planes that can go into space. It doesn't feel like space combat. It's you guys have heard my opinions on this already. If you haven't, if you're new to the channel, if you're first time watching it, I am not a fan of master modes. And we're going to see very soon if the player base is a fan of master modes, because I'm going to say this now, that they are not going to have a record-breaking year in terms of ship sales at Invictus launch week, which is 2 weeks now, probably because they need to make sure that people have plenty of time to go in and try to buy a ship, right? They're probably not going to have that many ship sales during Invictus and Citizen Con and all that stuff because people are not happy with master modes. Ships at the current tuning don't feel individual enough to justify buying one ship over another, especially since you can get them in game. Although I do suspect part of the reason why they put the economy changes as far as the ship price changes into the game is because realistically, if they wipe the game, not many people are going to want to sit for 2 to 3 months to grind 40-something million dollars to go, not dollars, but 40-something million credits to go buy a ship. So what are they going to do? They're going to go on the ship store, and the new ship prices for a lot of people will justify them spending the money instead of playing the game to get the ships. I'll give you an example. I've always said, this is prior to the ship price changes. I always said that I will always buy an A2 in game because it's a ship that's, you can grind for it pretty easy, a week, 2 weeks, whatever. You can grind up enough money doing the missions to get that ship. And then from there, I start doing the gameplay that I want, right? But with these new price changes, like, I'm not going to grind 44 million credits to go get that ship. Like, they're crazy. Like, the casual player doesn't have that kind of time to grind for that ship if that's the ship that they want. If the price was like around 20 million, 25 million, I could kind of see it. But 44, man, they're smoking some good stuff. They need to pass whatever they're smoking because I don't foresee people wanting to sit around and grind for these ships, especially when there's not that depth of gameplay that currently exists in the game to justify people being in the game for 5 or 6 hours. Look, for most of the time, when you're trying to get your ship together, it's going to take you 30 to 45 minutes to flying from location to location, just getting components before you even start the actual gameplay itself. Okay? So imagine doing that, and then on top of that, having to grind for hours and hours and days and weeks and months to get the ship that you want. Like, that's not something that, I personally want to do. And I just think that given, there's a lot of errors with this game still, that they could have waited on the ship price changes. I would have liked to see change to other things. Like, I would have liked to see them change to make fuel and things like that a little bit more expensive to kind of keep people, I guess, more localized. And also, I would like to see them change how the bounty hunting missions work. Like, if you're an ArcCorp, right, and you want to do bounties in ArcCorp, I don't know why your bounty assessment is also not in ArcCorp. Like, why am I flying to Microtech, an entirely different jurisdiction, to do a bounty assessment than just to have to fly all the way back to ArcCorp? Like, can we get these changes, please?
With precision targeting and weapon mount and gimbal changes, meaning space combat's got its next evolution in Alpha 323.
This is more like a de-evolution, but I digress.
But what if flying in the PU isn't enough? Or you simply want a safe place to practice the changes? Well, there's a whole host of new maps and experimental modes in Arena Commander 323 that we covered here in detail just last week. Then back in the Precision Universe and down planet side, you'll find the new distribution centers with a variety of mission and gameplay opportunities for all manner of playstyles. And
so for the distribution centers, the DCs, we did have a good time in the DCs doing some of the FPS missions. The AI were super responsive. We were on a low pop server. The AI was super responsive. It was actually very, very difficult. Even with a group, I think we had like 10 people, and we all had like tier 1 injuries by the time it was over. So this actually has a lot more upside than I think than what people are thinking right now. However, they do need to fix the fact that you can fall through these distribution centers through the planet. Like, I feel like that should have been like taken care of before these things came out, right? Like, falling through the distribution center, like I've fallen through the ventilation shafts, I've gone through the hangars, and in the previous EPTU patch, if you went down below the hangar and you came back up, it would make your entire ship and your character invisible. And even in a live stream, I was actually flying through the station invisible because nobody could see me. I was shooting inside of the station. It was crazy. So hopefully, that's been fixed and that's been corrected, because if not, that can be an issue going into this patch.
Distribution centers with a variety of mission and gameplay opportunities for all manner of playstyles, and the added dangers of the American Copian, Star Citizen's first fall.
These things, most of the time, are pretty unresponsive. Like, you stand next to them, and they react to you, like, very, very slowly. I don't know if this is by design because they don't want people just getting killed by these things, very easily. So they want to give players time to, like, react to them and kind of see, what they are, and look at them, and maybe they'll change how they behave in the future. But when I interacted with them, I found their movements to be a little bit more robotic, a little bit less refined. So hopefully we can get these things more refined in the future. And just looking at it right here, the level of detail on it, you can tell it's not the same level of detail that they put into their ships. So in the future, I would like to see them put that same detail like they put into their ships, and maybe make them a little bit more responsive, a little bit more aggressive, so they kill players.
Fauna being added to Alpha 323.
Haven't seen that one yet, though.
And how are the Merrics dangerous? Just wait until they add poop mechanics. Then there's also exciting new technological improvements like our initial implementation of Vulcan, new DLSS, FSR, TSR upscale.
So the upscaling actually works pretty well. I will say that they need to figure out with the ship HUDs, when you switch modes, it makes your HUD blurry if you're using the upscaling. So they need to kind of like work that out. As far as like Vulcan goes, I haven't tried Vulcan since the initial time when it didn't perform very well on my computer. But I think that's because I have a 30 series card still. I think Vulcan is more going to be one of the things that's going to be better for the guys that have like the newer generation video cards. They're really going to see a lot of performance increases from Vulcan. But for me, I'm still using DirectX 11 and with the upscaling, and it's working just fine. Some places I'm getting over 100 frames on a 4K monitor with a 30 series card. So it's been working pretty good. I don't have too many bad things to say about it, except for with some of the upscaling. I remember like in some of the earlier EPTU patches that you would have the ASOP, not the ASOP, but some of the kiosk terminals a little bit, the items were they were like illegible. It was like you dilated your eyes, you couldn't see anything. And if they can fix when you switch from SCM to nav mode or nav mode to SCM, that your HUD doesn't get blurry, so you can like see like your speed and like your altimeter and all those things don't blur out. If they can do that, then I think they're going somewhere with this, because this is a much needed change to the game.
Scaling and the new water rendering and simulation tech that will make Star Citizen look even better than ever before. And then
So with the water simulation stuff, like I'm never gonna get over in Star Citizen, the other in Star Citizen Live where they talked about how they made the sea foam from soapy dishwater. I'm never gonna get over that. Like that's going to probably, if you're gonna be a part of my channel, and that's gonna be a running meme on my channel for a very long time, because it's like, why would you do soapy dishwater when you could literally go to a beach and take a picture of sea foam? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it at all. So that's just me though.
Simulation tech that will make Star Citizen look even better than ever before. And then under the hood, with the new replication layer split in 323, players no longer connect directly to the game servers and instead to the hybrid service, which hosts the replication layer, which then itself maintains the state of the game.
So with the replication layer, it's been kind of hit or miss. So I've done EPTU tests with the replication layer on and off, and a lot of times the game was actually running better with the replication layer off. Now I know they had some issues with like memory leaks and stuff like that early on, but it seems like there's still like this degradation of the servers with replication layer on. So they need to figure that part out. because if they can't figure that part out, I don't really have that much hope for server meshing in the future if the replication layer is still like crumbling, you know, and you're having, you know, these a bunch of server errors. Like sometimes the server errors are so long, and it's like, bro, just like let me 30k so I can restart. And what happens if you go into a server error and you want to log out and switch servers, you can't. You're gonna be stuck in that same dying server, which, you know, for me just kills the gameplay. It's just like you might as well you log off until that server comes back up, and then you can get back into the game.
This now means that the loss of a server can be recovered from without the players being disconnected from the game or losing their progress.
Yeah, server errors are not that short. They're not that short. Sometimes they're 5, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Like, they're not that short. That's wishful right there.
And sets the stage for multiple game servers sharing a single hybrid replication layer in the server mesh coming online with Alpha 4.0. So all in all, there's more things in Alpha 3.23 than you can shake a stick at.
Not really.
But there's actually even more, as this branch not only includes all the hangar and cargo improvements we discussed earlier, it also contains the next iteration of Invictus Launch Week, which is actually 2 weeks because we're all super extra here. And we'll introduce a handful of new ships and vehicles folks have been waiting for, as well as one straight to flyable that's available with 3.23 launch. So let's learn more from John, Ben, and Alberto.
The Pulse.
The Mirai Pulse is Mirai's entry into the ground Gravlev bike category.
Is a new
So they made a crotch rocket. Is that what I'm hearing?
racing vehicle from Mirai. It kind of builds on some of their kind of core values as a brand of MISC, focusing more on performance. It takes a lot of inspiration, should we say, from the Razor, and really kind of shrinks that kind of thrill speed
How
down.
fast is it? The issue with I have with the bikes, the Gravlev vehicles, how they work on planetary surfaces, is you can't roll them, right? And I find like they need to change that to the ground, to the Gravlev vehicles. They should be able to roll at a certain degree, right? Because it feels counterintuitive for the roll to be, you know, dedicated to the yaw, right? If I could roll, you know, while I'm on the ground, like that would be, I'm not saying like do like a whole like circle while I'm rolling. I'm just saying like roll like a little bit so I can control how many degrees I'm rolling into a turn. Like some turns, maybe I want to put in a little bit more input. Sometimes maybe I want to put in a little less input into a roll. Like let us control that. I don't want, you know, the yaw to control that. I want to control it on my own. And that's why I don't use these all that much, because I feel like the way that they are is very counterintuitive.
So the role of Gravlev vehicles in the game, and especially hover bikes, it allows you to, you've got a mission in mind, perhaps you don't want to risk bringing your ship or larger vehicle right up to it. It allows you to park some distance away, out of radar range, out of line of sight, and then infiltrate stealthily, speedily towards the target location. And of course, as features like weather comes online and more diverse and hazardous biomes such as heavily dense forests, Gravlev vehicles, bikes will become more useful as ways to get closer to your target without damaging ships. The Pulse is our smallest ground vehicle. It was a intentional design choice to make something as small and compact and as fast as possible, and Mirai as a brand sort of fits that performance ideology.
It needs to be small. It needs to be small, fast, agile, and really that just kind of gives us a much greater opportunity.
It is pretty small,
how
though.
The players can really experience that sense of speed. on one of our ground vehicles.
So the Pulse comes in two flavors. We've got the base version, which comes equipped with a custom laser Gatling on the front. And then you have the LX, which is the dedicated racing version. It loses that front weapon, replaces it with a big intake, you get extra thrusters. So out of all the Gravlev bikes, it is one of the most agile there.
I don't know, how fast was he going? Let me try to get a pause on that. They didn't put the speed in here? And he's flying coupled with G-Safe on? Come on, dude. There's no speed?
Big intake, you get extra thrusters.
So we don't know how fast this thing will go. We're gonna have to figure that out. I still wish we had... Oh, they did put that right here. Okay. Or maybe this is from an earlier build, but I would much rather have my altimeter like right here on the side. You know? I would much rather have my altimeter like right here than like this number. Like for me, like speed can probably be a number like over here on this side, but I would like my altimeter to still kind of be like this bar thing. And I'm very curious to why they didn't put the speed on here. I'm very curious about that.
So
we all know why. We all know why, but I mean,
out of all the Gravlev bikes, it is
I mean, the amount of G's that it's pulling, I'm sure it's not that quick.
one of the most agile there. The reason it's so small and compact is we wanted it to have the most compatibility with all of our other vehicles in game. So by being compact, allows you to pretty much stuff it into every single other vehicle in existence in the game.
Size-wise, I think it's just over 2.5 meters in length, so it is tiny. To put that into some perspective, it's a tiny bit longer than 2 SCU of cargo, so it is very small.
I'm sure there will be one or two vehicles out there where it doesn't fit in.
I can't wait to see these things bouncing and desyncing inside of ships. When the servers are degrading, it's going to be great. You're going to get killed by so many players are going to die to these things because of the desync.
Maybe such as the MPUV, but across the board, it's designed to get in a lot of other vehicles. My favorite thing about the Pulse series is just the way we've integrated all the components together into that incredibly tight chassis.
I wish they would make components like actually matter, like especially with vehicles like this, because the thing about like having like a car these days, if you're into like modifying cars, is that you can modify them and changing out things will make it faster or make it slower. So I wish if you put like a better power plant in your thing, maybe you get like 10% more speed. You know what I'm saying? If you put better coolers in it, maybe you get, you know, a faster boost regen or something like that. Like make it actually like worth us using, you know?
Try to kind of fuse the idea of a sports bike, but almost, I think they're called like naked bikes. So we wanted it to feel still quite aggressive and quite kind of chunky, almost like a bobber. But we kind of really wanted that sleekness that Mirai and the brand as a whole kind of is known for. One of the, I guess, biggest kind of challenges that our like Alberto and the concept team really had to work on, which then turned our production artists and kind of gave them a few things to scratch their head against, is really fitting all of the ship items and the components into a vehicle of this size.
As we never did anything so small, new problems come along. I decided to take the same approach of a motorbike. We tried to insert most of the components in what will be the fuel tank, and with this approach we kept the same shape, the same main shape of a motorbike. So we have very fluid and soft shapes.
Yeah, it's basically a crotch rocket. That's essentially what it is.
Which means that you can flip it and it looks kind of the same, and then we added the front part just to connect the semiotic of the racing vehicles to this one. We were really tight to the size because it can fit in a container, and that created a huge challenge with how the components move when you actually have to expose them. So that dictated actually the shape we ended up with, and I'm really happy with the final result because you couldn't say probably that inside such a small vehicle there are so many.
I'm not excited for it, and like I'm not mad about it. It's just kind of like meh to me, you know. Kind of like this entire patch is just kind of like eh. It feels we're gonna be doing a lot of the exact same things, most of which we'll just be doing it slower.
So many components.
Compared to our other Gravlev ground vehicles, the Pulse is It trades durability for speed and agility, so compared to say like the Dragonfly and the Hover Quad, which are relatively tanky, not as good there.
The Nox is more tense and definitely bigger. Mirai tries to simplify things a bit. Less is more. We try to have a different approach compared to most of racing vehicles and communicate speed through mass and not through aerodynamics, although we keep...
You want to communicate speed through mass, not aerodynamics? What? The best way to communicate speed is to make something actually fast. You know what I mean? It's like, it sounds like to me they're trying to convince you that an all-motor 200 horsepower Civic that's been gutted is fast. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a 200 horsepower gutted Civic. It may feel fast, but once you get in a fast car, you realize, oh, that's not actually fast.
aerodynamics in consideration for this kind of stuff.
In terms of
Again, they're not showing the speed. It's very interesting.
the Nox and the X1, it is right up there in speed and agility. So they all trade different speed attributes in terms of straight line speed,
No
cornering speed, rotational velocities.
Oh no, wait, he took it in a bunker?
And the bespoke weapon on the front of the
It's going to be the new meta way to do bunkers now. Is this thing going to have a shield generator on it as a weapon?
base model is our first laser Gatling in the game, so we're looking forward to see how that performs. So that's the Pulse coming online in 3.23, 2 variants of it. Looking forward to seeing all the different scenarios you're going to get it into.
Well, we just got our meta bunker vehicle, I guess. My overall thoughts on the initial 3.23 patch is I truly feel that people should temper their expectations with this patch because a lot of it is decorative, right? So they're putting new things on top of the old things, but underneath it's still kind of the same. It's not, the game's not changing. It is changing in the way of like combat and stuff like that. The game's going to be a lot slower. So take that what you will. Like I said, I'm not a fan of master modes. I think, you know, the SCM speed needs to come up. I'm not too worried about like the way that boost works in master modes, but I do think that they need to take a seriously like a long look at that, because with master modes, like it's really hard to like get on someone's six. Like if you're like nose to nose, it's really hard to get around them. Like I feel like here's what it is, guys. Here's my thing, and here's my take. I want to know if we are in the future or if we're not in the future. Because if we are in the future, I think the next phase of combat, as far as like flight goes, will be 6 degrees of freedom in real life. You know, we already see like we're kind of moving this way with some jet planes right now having rotational thrusters. Like we're slowly moving there. Is the reason probably why we can't do it right now, because it'd probably be very inefficient. But if they can find a way to make it more efficient by putting maneuvering thrusters on airplanes, it's going to be like the next level. You know what I'm saying? So, and it will be one of those situations to where they will try to combine all those movements to make their ships faster, to make their ships better, to make their ships or their aircraft less hittable by the enemy. Because in any style of combat, I don't care what combat it is, you want to hit and not get hit. That's the essential fundamental rule of any combat. Hit them and don't let them hit you. But with master mode, it's like everyone's trading shots, and what master modes has become ultimately is a DPS race. Who has the bigger guns? Not who is the better pilot. If you have more guns, you're probably you have more DPS. You're gonna win the fight. Like I've done like on live streams and things like that where when I'm NPC bounty hunting, to where I know like, okay, if this ship, like I was in my F8 and I know like if certain ships are on me and my shields are low, that I can essentially just turn around, out DPS them and still win the fight. And I don't think that's how combat should be, you know, but that's just my take. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. again, I would appreciate it if people can go support my Patreon, continue to support me through these trying times, and I will continue to do my best to give you guys content. We're going to focus on streaming more on Twitch. I will still do part of my streams on YouTube until we get like a big Twitch following going. But yeah, guys, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm going to push forward and maximize what I can. Comment down below. Tell me what you guys think about 323. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.